what is ransomware? Because there will be some folks who are new to the cyber and all that. What is ransomware and why we really need to worry about this?
This is a malicious software that is being used to encrypt the data that resides onto your host or your digital device, which we can say.
Hey guys, welcome to the session. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Shivendra Kumar Singh, a seasoned cybersecurity professional with 9 of experience in incident response, threat hunting, and security operation. And he has developed a lot of expertise on the area of micro sentinel, sentinel one, CrowdStrikes, and helping the organization to combat the cybersecurity threats. And when it comes to the session today, before that, I want to discuss one thing about Shivendra. He's passionate about mentoring also, aspiring professionals, and sharing insight on tackling the modern cyber threats, especially ransomware. And that's why we are here in this podcast to discuss about ransomware, which is a hot trending topic. And I want to start this year with something around offensive security and defense security. And ransomware is one of the important topic we have. So Shivendra, thank you so much for taking out the time from his schedule and giving back to society.
Yeah. Thanks, Prab, and thank you for having me here. And it's been a privilege to sit and talk to you on the on this session. And I follow you and InfoSec train, so I follow your videos and your content. So and it is very helpful for everyone. I mean, I take a lot of inputs from there, and then enrich myself with the knowledge. So thanks to
Thanks.
you, the work that you have been doing for the community. It's highly commendable. So thank you
Thanks,
for.
thanks, thanks, Shivi bhai. Matlab, you have given me next level of motivation for me to work hard, and people like you who always back and support me. And it is always basically a great pleasure to have an interaction with the folks who really are working on the production side. See, we are simply say on LinkedIn, do this, do that, but you guys are the one on the field who say, okay, let me do that. This is not how things works, and that's the reason we're doing this podcast, to connect the bridge between what we have and what is exactly we are doing. So what is special today, Shivi?
Uh, like you mentioned, right? So we would like, I'll try to talk about a little bit of my experience with ransomware, what is actually a ransomware, and then, how we detect it, what's the aftermath of a ransomware attack, and, what are the parties that are involved in during detection, and, after the detection, uh, how it happens, why ransomware is something very critical in terms of when we say basically a ransomware attack is something, it gives, if you prepare internally, if you do a drill or a tabletop exercise for a ransomware attack, you kind of touch base on every aspect of your organization's security. So that's how it is very important. I will if you say basically uh, what are the things that are involved in a ransomware attack. So from end user to your endpoint to the point wherein your brand reputation comes into picture, and everything, each and every individual that is involved, how they get impacted. So it's not like it's a simple attack. It sounds like, ransomware, a word is pretty one word, but it has a lot in it. So yeah.
So that is great. So let's start it with what is ransomware, because there will be some folks who are new to the cyber and all that. What is ransomware and why we really need to worry about this?
Okay. So first of all, we'll discuss about what is a ransomware. So it's basically a piece of malware. Okay. Now this is a malicious software that is being used to encrypt the data that resides onto your host or your digital device, which we can say.
Okay.
So in this case, it can be the server, it can be your laptop, it can be your desktop, it can be your cloud servers that you have hosted on cloud. So what it does is basically it will encrypt the existing files, and that encryption is done with a set of keys that the threat actor has created for himself. And
Okay.
and since the encryption is done with a specific set of key, you will not be able to open those files or read those files normally when when you try to access them. So now you are logged, your critical data is stopped. What they then ask for is, in order for them to give you that key to decrypt all that data, they will ask for certain amount of money. So that is where money comes into picture. That is what we call it as a ransom. Basically, Hindi mein, when we say firoti is what we say, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that is, the Hindi version of ransom. So that is what they say. And when we talk about the definitions and characteristics, so basically ransomware operates by employing encryption algorithms to deny access to critical data or systems. So once an attacker has gained control, they present the victim with a specific ransom note.
Okay.
And that ransom note is wherein they will demand money in terms of cryptocurrency. Usually it's Bitcoin that they ask for, because the why the Bitcoin is, the it is hard to trace back. The way cryptocurrency, and blockchain works, it makes it very hard for the authorities when they try to investigate to backtrace who the actual receiver of the money is. So that is what it is. And then if just to mention a specific characteristic, so data encryption is one, where files are rendered unreadable without unique without a unique decryption key. Then the system lockouts. So it can be basically, they can lock you out of your device entirely with only one ransom node that is available. And they are basically very stealthy in the terms of operation. So when we say, operation is basically when the attacker is trying to put you under a ransomware attack. They are highly educated, and they're highly skilled, so they try to evade the detection tools that you have placed for these kind of detections. And then and in a, just early stages of ransomware, if we talk about, right? So it was very limited targeting, no, not like wide scale. The first case of ransomware was somewhere around 1980s. That was spotted. I think the name was PC Cyborg Trojan.
Okay.
And that was one of the earliest example. So early ransomware was very limited targeting. They were not basically targeting multiple organizations, or entire and an organization in entire. It was not like a very planned
Hmm.
attack.
Hmm.
So it was something that was developed, but then nothing in terms of targeted attacks.
Hmm.
Over the period of time, it evolved, and
Hmm.
then it became ransomware as a service, wherein the different threat actor families were created, right? So there were, just to name a few, there is a Logbit ransomware family, then there is, Ryuk, and then there is Conti, then you have Black Cat. So these are all different families of ransomware, wherein they organize this in a manner wherein, they have their own setup in terms of leak sites, which they have set up. And they on the dark web, obviously, you have, when you visit them, they list down all their organizations that they have impacted. So
Okay.
they will share their data that, okay, this is one organization that we have impacted. And they will also share the proof of exfiltration or
Hmm.
proof of attack. So they might end up sharing uh, certain identities, PII identities of users, or it can be financial data that
Hmm.
they kind of put it there, just to make everyone assure, just to give that assurance that, okay, we have been actually into your environment, and we have encrypted this data, and also this is exfiltrated. So if you
Hmm.
do not pay us this amount of money, we can hurt you in both ways. Either you don't, obviously, when you are not able to access your data, it is disruption of your normal process, right? You cannot basically operate. And then there is a reputation destruction, is they put out that data. If they leak that data, again, it's like your competition is lost. For example, if you are a company that is working on, creating certain new designs. For example, it can be a space, newly private sector space program organization, right? Who are creating multiple designs. For example, SpaceX, which we call. अगर SpaceX पे एक अटैक होता है और उनके वो सारे डिजाइन्स वो चुरा करके दे एक्सफिल्ट्रेट एंड पब्लिश इट, द SpaceX loses the competition, right? So उस
Hmm.
तरीके से, so that is how it evolved to ransomware as a service ecosystem. And then the they kind of now targeted organizations. It was a, which we call spear phishing. So वो
Hmm.
spear phishing नहीं है, वो targeted attack है. और they choose the organizations very, in a very interesting manner. वो
Okay.
it can depend upon whether it is a state sponsor attack. Otherwise, it can also be, like I said, so they have subscription plans. So attackers pay for those ransomware kits, and though per attacker who is purchasing it, that ransomware kit. So for example, Logbit has developed a ransomware kit. They will put it on dark web, and any attacker he may not belong to Logbit family, but he can purchase that kit and then conduct an attack. So that can vary depending upon the intention of the attacker. Most of the times it is state sponsored because they try to bring down create havoc, especially during COVID times. अगर आपने देखा होगा कि healthcare industries पे बहुत ज्यादा हुआ है, that was the most in demand COVID के time पे, and every major attacks of ransomware were observed during this COVID period was for the healthcare industry. So this is what I would like to say, that it has grown from a very nascent threat to a global kind of attack vector, and that not only is not only impacting in organizations, it is impacting individuals. वो हम we'll discuss it further, because eventually when an organization goes down, people who are associated with that organization are also being affected.
Agree.
Yeah, so and individuals, जैसे मैंने healthcare sector का example दिया. So for example, if you remember some time back, हमारे इंडिया में भी there is a very big well known hospital based
Yeah.
out of Delhi was impacted, and
Hmm.
that kind of ended up impacting the support that the staff was supposed to give to the patients. So that is
Hmm.
how individuals are being impacted. So
So here I want to ask you one thing: how ransomware works actually?
okay, so basically, okay, so I'll try to break it into phases. Okay,
Hmm.
so there are multiple phases how the attacker would basically try to go through a ransomware attack. So in order to understand how operates, it's a kind of effective. It is essential for effective prevention and response to understand how this works. So first phase is basically the attacker will try to do the reconnaissance.
Hmm.
And
What is
once
reconnaissance?
reconnaissance is basically the threat actor wants to explore what are the opportunities or what are the factors that I can exploit to get inside an organization.
Okay.
So basically वो आपके weak points ढूंढ रहा है जब वो
Hmm.
reconnaissance कर रहा है, वो आपके organization के बारे में study कर रहा है,
English.
वो
Hmm.
आप कौन से whatever tools that you are associated with or products that you are associated with, or people within your organization, what is the hierarchy, who all are working, who are the CEO CTOs whales जो हैं आपके organization के, right? High उसके बाद everyone, if you look on LinkedIn, right, people put on the designation, they kind of update it. So if you look at a person's career growth, you will get to understand, okay, currently for example, XYZ person is working as a admin, or he might have mentioned as a senior security architect, or senior cloud architect. So that gives the attacker the understanding, okay, so he is an architect, he must be having admin accesses, so possibly this is my one target that I want to target. So वो reconnaissance का part होता है जहाँ पे then when I said वो explore करते हैं, so it can be they also want to explore commonly exploited vulnerabilities होती हैं, unpatched software होते हैं, right? Uske once they do that, then they try to go through the credentials, right? Weak or default credentials या leaked credentials हैं क्या?
Okay.
At times, they will explore the dark web to understand from these organizations what are the credentials that are present in leaked databases. So dark web पे credentials are up for sale.
Hmm.
For example, multiple users के data, username और password वहाँ sale पे रहते हैं. So
Okay.
they will also go through the dark web to see, if there is anything like that. Yeah, if you're using cloud services, they will try to explore and understand if there is any misconfigured, cloud service exposed, any buckets that are exposed or weak identity and access configuration, ports that are open commonly, which we, critical ports like RDP ka port, FTP ka port, right? Then, like I mentioned, third party supply chain vulnerabilities. If you remember, I think Starbucks was one of the organization. One of the big coffee chain was impacted through a ransomware, but that was not a direct impact on that chain. It was a third party attack. So basically, time keeping, yeah, time management system जो उनका था, the organizations that were helping that coffee chain to maintain their workers timeline, right? Time sheets and everything. So that was impacted. So again, it was not a direct impact, but then the coffee chain got impacted. टूल्स रिकॉनेसेंस में कुछ ऐसे यूज होते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल शोडान एक ऐसा टूल है that basically locates the internet connected devices with exploitable configurations. आपको ports के बारे में पता चल जाएगा. And nmap, body, everyone knows about nmap. So nmap is a direct scan, which using that tool you can conduct scan to identify what are the services that are running, ports that are running. So, and then there are other tools like Recon NG used for social engineering and open source intelligence. So this is part of the reconnaissance phase. Then we go to the second step, is basically the initial access, where the attacker is trying to gain entry. Okay, so
Okay.
in order to gain entry, there are multiple techniques that the attacker can use. The attacker can use phishing emails, which are very common. Most of the if you say the percentage of entry point for an attacker into an organization is your uh, you know is phishing email, I would say. So phishing emails are basically very common entry points, and everyone, I believe, would know about that. But just to touch base, phishing emails are something that contain malicious link or many malicious attachment that will help the attacker to further either exploit your credential or create a backdoor or initiate a command and control communication. Then there is exploitation of vulnerabilities, like the okay. So if you everyone must have known about WannaCry,
Yeah.
because that was the first ransomware which was large, that created a large scale impact across the globe. WannaCry was basically propagating through a specific vulnerability,
Hmm.
which was in the SMB version 1, and the name of the vulnerability was Eternal Blue. And they were basically it was basically uh, exploit that was developed by America's own secret agency, and it got somehow leaked. That exploit got leaked to a threat actor group from North Korea, if I'm correct. Yeah, so they then started using it and impacting the multiple organizations and sectors across the globe. So that is a great example of how the attackers used vulnerabilities to create to do ransomware attacks. And and the tools that basically they use in the initial phase are commonly are Cobalt Strike, And Metasploit framework is basically to create and deliver exploits. And then Cobalt Strike is a post-exploitation toolkit to gain further access. And there are social multiple social engineering kits also that are available. So people, when we are basically doing the prevention or creating rules, we need to keep in mind these, certain tools that are being used, because at a lot of times you will be able to do that pre-detection when you create detection rules for installation or usage of these kind of, tools within the environment. And coming to the third stage, that is the privilege escalation, wherein, privilege escalation is basically wherein the threat actor might have gotten access to a normal user credential. Now he has to elevate his privileges to, create more impact, or, to do further damage, or I would say he will, with the, admin rights, he will be able to perform more tasks which a normal user is generally blocked in an organization to, do. So they can make changes to the policies. You have Windows firewall, right? If you have admin access, you can change the Windows firewall policies. You can turn off the detection, or you can either uninstall, the applications that are there. So that is one thing that happens with the help of admin, right? So privilege escalation, that is why the attackers will try to do. And the common, techniques that they might use is basically, you know, if for example, they will bypass Windows UAC for or they will try to extract service account credentials via Kerberos, or they might use hash credentials to authenticate. And if we talk about tools, right, there is multiple tools that are there. That one of the very known or very hardly used tool is Mimikatz, which is basically helping to extract plain text password and hashes from the memory. So that is one. There are other tools as well. I just wanted to mention Mimikatz because it is very, widely used. Then we have something called payload deployment, which is, activation of the encryption mechanism. So that is, in this payload deployment, is basically the attacker is trying to prepare, deploy the ransomware payload and initiate the encryption of targeted files to render them inaccessible. So again, that is to okay, so the attacker might not trigger the encryption as soon as he had access to one device. So but he will start deploying payloads as and when he gets access to multiple devices. So with payload description, payload deployment, parallelly, what the attacker is also trying to do is laterally move on, within your network. Lateral movement is something, spreading across the network, and the attackers, propagate with this, propagation, he will be able to deploy that payload that will help him encrypt the critical data to multiple, devices. And again, there are multiple tools that are being used for example, payload deployment. They can use macro-based payloads, right? And there are multiple, tools that they can use. Macro. Recently, I got what I understood is Microsoft is planning to basically, close macros in itself, which I have to check back on that, but that is somewhere I read. Macro is again very well, very, uh, it's easy to use, and then attackers tend to use them very frequently.
Okay.
Then, so after payload deployment, you have the lateral movement, which we already, I already covered. And then once the attacker has understood that I am able to get into your critical systems, your data center, your multiple exchange servers and everything, he has the understanding that I have gotten onto and deployed my payload onto critical system. Then he'll start executing the encryption. And once the encryption starts, it's pretty much an automated process. The attacker has to just run that script, and it starts encrypting, and it encrypts at a very high rate. Uh, Interesting fact. I'll cover that, when we talk about, the encryption of files. Once this is done, delivery. So once all the files are, encrypted, then the attacker will, publish the ransom note. That is the final phase. You have been encrypted and the ransom note is now up. Whenever you open a file, you will be presented with a ransom note. And this is basically, the ransom note is mostly a text file which is there, and it contains the details of the cryptocurrency wallets that, or the amount that the attacker wants. And then the also they will share the communication channel. So it is Tor based communication, and they will
What is
share
store based
that.
communication?
Oh, okay. So a Tor is
The
basically
Tor, acha, Tor based communication.
Tor.
Okay.
Tor.
Okay. What is Tor?
Tor is basically, okay. So normal browsers which we use, right, are times, being owned by organizations like Microsoft and, other organizations, that they are not considered secured, because they tend to, capture certain information from your, machines,
Hmm.
and that helps them to kind of, that also helps them to understand where the user is based out of. And then with the help of your browsing habits, general browsers I'm talking about, they will present you with, customized, ads and everything. But with Tor, it is different. It's a highly, I would say, sanitized kind of a browser which you can use. It will not keep a trace of, it connects through, it kind of will not capture your location where you're logging from. That is a technique. There is a mechanism behind that. Through VPN they will use, right? And that is where, they, and then we have something called onion links, right? So through Tor you can access those onion links, but you don't you're not supposed to access directly from your machines. It has to be a sanitized and, quarantined environment from you want to access that threat actors channel. So because eventually it is a threat actor whom you are communicating with, and for example, he might not have been able to encrypt your laptop while he was deploying the payload. You start communicating with that, possibilities are your laptop might also get encrypted. So that is, you should not use communication channels from your, personal device, from your organizational device. It has to be a perfect setup in terms of a sanitized VM, disconnected from everywhere. And then also your location should not be visible to the threat actor. Why? I'll tell you later, because that comes into play in terms of whenever you're trying to negotiate with the threat actors. That is where you do not want your location to be shared when you're communicating with the threat actors. They should not be aware of
Hmm.
things. So yeah, so that's what, that is the execution and delivery part. Where the ransom note basically appears and will have all that information. And yeah, so that is pretty much it from, in terms of what, uh, how the chain proceeds. And each phase of the ransomware is basically designed to, by the threat actor, they try to maximize the effectiveness and the impact. So every phase, when I say effectiveness and the impact, for example, if it is, when we talk about reconnaissance, right, they will put in a hard amount of work to understand who all can be exploited, whether
Hmm.
it is your system, whether it is your user. And when they try to do that, for example, if it is a phishing mail, they will not. So again, spear phishing they will do for a very, craft in a very crafted manner, but they will also try to, send generic spams as well, because
Okay.
normal end users, they will also try to exploit. And then for your privileged user, it will not be a generic spam. They are aware that, okay, that guy is technical, so they will create a crafted email. It can be, it can be, related to, for example, they tend to, we have seen email communication, which is forged to look like a previous communication that has been going on. So that chain, if you look at it, will have the way you reply to emails, you see a email chain behind,
Hmm.
in the trail. So they create that trail. And in order to create that trail, not necessarily that you are the one who have been impacted. It could be the person whom you are communicating is impacted, and the attacker has compromised his email, right? The person whom you are communicating with, and then from there he gets to understand, okay, this is what the generic communication goes between the admin who I want to target, and he then uses the third party's email address to get inside your organization. So that's where effectiveness and impact is what I was trying to refer to. And yeah, that's, I would like to say, it's highly fascinating when you look at this, the way attackers use uh, different techniques, right? For example, through emails, when they are sending phishing emails, right? Everyone is, putting in protection you have great tools to protect emails, use as an email security. One of the emerging phishing techniques through emails is quishing.
Hmm.
So quishing, I hope people will know about that. But just to mention, it is QR based phishing.
Okay.
So and it's very interesting. So QR based phishing, they'll send you an email. It will have a QR code in it. It will ask you to scan it, and using that QR code, once you scan it, it will move to, it will reroute you to a, link which is basically could be, controlled entirely by the attacker, or it has redirections, and then you end up losing your credentials. Another interesting point in here is, for example, you got an official email on your office email ID, right? You have MDM services and every services that are being provided by the organizations, right? And person who is opening that email on his mobile, I'm just giving an example. So email is official, MDM is been deployed, but the device that is being used is end user's own personal device. Now, once the user scans it, link will open on the personal device of the user. So in
Oh.
that case, the if you see, the attack vector has changed its course from the organization all, and widens up and includes the individual as well. So that is what I'm saying. So that's those are the few things, how the attackers are evolving. And I believe, with phishing in coming into picture, detections have been placed for those as well. But I don't think every email security provider has started using it. The top ones, yes, they have mentioned, because they were the ones who have discovered it. Yeah. So just, yeah. So that, in conclusion, I would say there are, these were the phases, how basically the ransomware attack happens. Yeah.
So it's a very good, interesting point that you talk about the movements and everything. As I want to ask you from your experience point of view, which you have deal with multiple incidents and all that.
Yeah.
Which of the incident which is basically make a little bit complicated in terms of thought process and all that,
Uh, okay.
and how
So,
you overcome that? Yeah.
okay. So, first of all, see, every incident has to be dealt with the same amount of seriousness,
Hmm.
right? It's at the end of the, your incident response and detection and everything has completed. You come to know that, okay, the impact was, for example, 1%, 2%, 3%.
Hmm.
That's where, you end up realizing that, okay, this might not have impacted that much. So it totally relates to impact, I would say.
Okay.
Uh, the impact, that threat, or that attack scenario, it can be ransomware, it can be anything. The impact that eventually it creates, is basically important. And complexity, I would say, uh, okay, so comparatively it is hard to detect, I would say, because since we are talking about ransomware, it's very hard to detect ransomware. Why? Because it is the people who are doing those ransomware are not script kiddies. They have they are state sponsored, groups, for example, Lockbit, Black Cat, from the China region, Russia region, North Korea region, and every region has their own groups. So there if you look into Google, I think India also has one or two groups from their side, but I would not say that is government owned or state sponsored, but known groups that are based out of a specific region and are supposed to target any organization, right? So like coming back to the point, it is those people are not script kiddies. So to detect it becomes very hard in terms of a ransomware scenario, because it doesn't happen uh, overnight.
Okay.
Okay, they will take their time to, because like I mentioned, right, lateral movement. So when they are doing lateral movement, they are also hiding their tracks. So that takes a lot of amount of time. They do not want to get caught in between, right? We had a case, wherein the organization that we were trying to, onboard, right? They were using an antivirus solution,
Wow.
and they were transitioning from one antivirus solution to another.
Hmm.
So we were helping them in that transition, and the attacker was already present into that system, and he was trying to move laterally. Now, when the existing antivirus solution, uh, the detection was not happening because it was entirely new hash values, new kind of tools that were being used.
Hmm.
So the signature matches were not happening. But the tool that we were deploying onto that environment was having custom rules, wherein it was looking into the command line executions that were happening, the spawning of processes, the startups that were startup utilities that were created, the scheduled tasks that were created. So all those were custom rules that were built in, enriched. We enriched that, EDR with those set of, custom rules. Those helped us to detect that okay, something fishy is going on. Now what we did, as soon as we found out, we that was the script that the attacker was using to initiate, it was a backdoor script. So through the script, the attacker was using a backdoor and was communicate was making changes through the CNC server which the attacker was hold of. Now, when we started to block that script itself, the attacker got alerted. Okay, so we pushed a complete block of the script. Now, interesting fact is the attacker put up a logic bomb. So
Okay.
logic bomb is something, it triggers, it's a script that resides onto your machine, but it will only triggered when a certain set of scenarios are met, certain conditions are met.
Okay.
Now, the logic bomb had, whenever this backdoor script stops or it is being blocked, you start the encryption. So that was the logic bomb.
Hmm.
So maybe if the organization has around 4,000 machines, the attacker was able to propagate to 1,000 or 1,200 odd machines, including servers and endpoints, and would have propagated more. But when we blocked that, the encryption started, and within few amount certain amount of time, the entire devices, around 1,200 devices, were impacted and encrypted, and it went down like anything. uh, but with the help of that, we were able to, once that encryption happened, we got the ransomware note. So that was a key point for us. We traced it back and tried to understand, where this ransomware node got onto that machine
Hmm.
using the, logs, and then previous AV's logs, from multiple tools. We fetched those SIEM and everything. We leveraged that, and we then tried to understand that, okay, apart from that, along with this file, what was the other files that were downloaded through the, during that point of time, what were the other anomalies. So we got hold of the payload also. So with then we blocked that payload. So, but then that was in retrospect. Uh, Eventually 1200 devices getting impacted with, with your exchange servers and everything is an impact for an organization. So that's how the complexity is. Even if you detect something, you need to understand. We important lesson we learned from there was, we it could have been a possibility that if we block the, you know uh, before blocking the logic, backdoor script, we could have, if we have drilled down and found the payload and blocked that, even though the logic bomb script would have run, the payload was quarantined, so the
Hmm.
encryption would not have happened.
Hmm.
So that's how you learn from, instances. So that's I was talking about complexity. So this is one interesting one which I wanted to share. Yeah.
That's great. And Shivi, like, just need to understand uh, if any ransomware attack is happening in the
Mhm.
organization. So what is a sign of ransomware attacks?
Okay, so basically how we detect. Okay, so there are multiple ways in terms of timely detection. Uh, a lot of next gen AVs are helping us. There are, industry leading AVs that are now focused to detect such kind of anomalies,
Hmm.
and they are getting enriched within, their threat research teams are enriching those, which we call the custom rules, right? They are enriching them with the different, command line scenarios, or it can be the hash values, it can be the IPs, the domains, the encrypted command lines. It can be at times the payload hash signatures. So just to, from an organization point of perspective, there are few things we need to, keep in mind. One thing is, uh, if you see, for example, okay, so let me cover it like that. Uh, for the attacker has to come onto your machine, right? So
Hmm.
first point, you need to cover, like we talked about reconnaissance. So you need to ensure that the detection mechanism is placed to check any, which we call the VAPT, vulnerability assessment and PTs are being done by the organizations to understand what are the loopholes from an external point of perspective to get inside an organizations, right? So to understand the vulnerabilities and patch them. So to first is to run through your system, scan it, and then understand, what are the vulnerabilities that are there and block them. Then you need to also, observe for your network traffic behavior. If the attack has happened, the likelihood of the data exfiltration is very high. The attacker will try to exfiltrate data, so you need to watch out for your bandwidth consumption. How, and all that too at times which are not usual. So unusual times, surge in, bandwidth, right? Network traffic patterns, which we call abnormal network traffic patterns, right?
Hmm.
Unusual presence of files that are having, you know, uh, extensions that that are not expected. For example, double extension files. It can be, xyz dot doc dot anything dot log
Hmm.
or dot I would say log. Because I was just saying, uh, there are multiple families, so they create their, in order to signify, they will create their own extension. The extension would name that family. So for example, logbit is using dot log, right? So I'm just giving that reference. So a double extension file, sudden system shutdown, when the encryption happens, the encryption process will consume high amount of resource. So for
Okay.
example, if you see a spike in your server, it can be, related to any other activity, but you need to have alarms in place to detect such kind of behavior. Sudden systems, high process, resource consumption. Then files, when I say, once the file is getting encrypted, another extension is being appended. So in that case, what is happening is file renaming activities are happening. So
Okay.
large amount of file rename activities, right? If it is happening on any specific machine, data transfers, which we already covered. Also, important thing we need to understand is detection for known tools. Like we talked about Cobalt Strike, Metasploit, then you have something called Wireshark. You need to target your people whom you need to allow it for. It can be, your in-house pen tester who will be using those kind of tools. Your VAPT2 team might be using those tools, but not everyone should have access to it. Right. So you need to restrict the usage of tools to a certain group. So that has to be done through policy and understanding of the demography of the organization. Like what set of people are supposed to use, this kind of tool. A lot of times, you see people in the organizations use uh, there are free downloadable tools to for the system not to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So this organization, people want to show that they are online, working from home. They will end up downloading those kind of tools, but then they don't know.
Keyword typing and all that.
हाँ, so they will not know कि उसके पीछे का scenario कुछ और है. They are creating an entry point. It is like that script will again help the attacker to get their credential, create a backdoor, and get onto your environment and do such kind of stuff. Create an impact. So those are few things you need to keep in mind. Understand the demography of the organization, keep it restricted, and also usage of your admins, right?
Hmm.
How the admins are, that behavior should be understood.
Hmm.
Uh, wha- for example, if there is a admin who is based out of Americas, right, he must be operating in a certain time zone. You see
Agree.
an unusual time login of that admin through IST times, or that is a kind of alert. It should alert you, or also you need to keep in mind that needs to be investigated, right? Why that user logged in? That question should be asked to the admin. Did
True.
you logged in or not? So if he's aware, he will, yeah, definitely say that, okay, I extended work and I was involved with something. But could be a possibility that he is not aware that his credentials are compromised and someone is leveraging them to create impact. So that is the sign of early detections. The tools that you can use in these analysis that will help you in analysis is basically firstly is your endpoint detection and response. That is very critical to have in your organization. There are multiple tools people, organizations or people can think of. Even on your laptops, on your personal devices, I would say one should have endpoint detection, EDR on an antivirus for sure. Maybe preferably mobile devices also. The one scenario I explained about phishing attacks, wherein end up scanning QR codes from your official email, and then it kind of opens through your personal device. So that kind of will help you, avoiding such scenarios. You do not lose on your personal data, or you're not compromised with your personal data. Then you have network traffic analysis. So I think network behavior analysis. These tools help to create a baseline for a machine, a user, how he operates, and then will show you the alerts for anomalies. So, for example, unusual detection, login locations or unusual login patterns are something which we discussed about, right? And then uh, okay. So, one of the important uh, ways the next gen AVs are trying to get an early detection for ransomware encryptions is they place dummy files onto your machine.
Okay.
So the antivirus, if you look, I would not name the folder because again it will end up naming a specific organization. So you go, whatever antivirus you're using, try to search for files. Usually it can be in the downloads or C program files. Look for a random folder with uh, maybe it will look a folder might look like a hash value name, and you open that, it will have a Word file, it will have a Excel, it will have a PDF embedded in it. Why different files is again a story. So they will keep those files, and those files are being deliberately placed as decoys onto your machine. As soon as the encryption starts, and they see that okay, one of our files is encrypted, they will then detect that process that is blocking that is encrypting that file, and then eventually block it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how, because nobody they are not keeping those files in very easily accessible manner, and that too they are keeping it in a hidden view, and normal user will not end up encrypting files that he is not even aware of that exist onto
Okay.
his machine. So that's one of the techniques which we have observed with EDRs doing that, and I would say it is great to use those type of techniques, and then also SIM. Everyone, I don't think there would be an organization who is not using SIM. Somehow or the other they are using SIM, but within your SIM you need to have alerts for these login activities as well, which we call, right? If you do not have a tool, maybe you are pulling the data onto your SIM, you create anomaly detections for login activities, data exfiltration, and everything, right? And then it's very important to uh, uh, also have an monitoring of files. So which is your file integrity monitoring, right? Integrity monitoring is basically you enrich that tool with the information of the files, and if there is an unauthorized modification to those critical files, you should have an alert.
Okay.
So that's where file integrity monitoring helps you. Uh, and then proactively, you can do AI based behavioral indicator searches. AI based is like when I say AI based, you make use of AI to basically run searches through your organization, which a
Hmm.
lot of times the tools have already given you that info, leverage. With next gen tools, they have integrated the AI, so kind of enriching their data on its own. But if you keep on receiving or reading about more IOCs that are being used on a daily basis, because a number of samples are being created on a daily basis, right? So
How
you
many? It will be how many? Any
uh,
approx idea we have?
I don't know. Maybe last when I read that was BlackBerry Silence updated that within 1 minute
Wow,
or 1 minute there are 3 lakh odd samples that are being generated. That was one data
that's huge.
long time back that I read about. That data was published by Silence, which is now being owned by BlackBerry. So that is where I got to know about that. But might have increased. I don't see it coming down at any point of time with AI coming in and automation happening. You can create multiple payloads with different hash values doing the same amount of work, the same targeted work. So threat intelligence is very important in this case. You have to have real-time feeds to understand what are the zero-day vulnerabilities, what are the new hash values that are present in the exploits, what are the new campaigns that are going on in terms of emails, phishing, right? So that has to be there. And yeah, so that is something, it, and to detect attacks in a nutshell, it will require a combination of both vigilance, advanced tools, proactive monitoring strategies in a combined manner to help you do a early detection. Yeah.
That's great. And one thing is that when you're talking about, are we using any tools and technologies?
Sorry.
Are we
I
using are we using any tools and technologies for detecting the ransomware apart from having a skill and thought process?
so a lot of so okay. So the AVs or the EDRs, like I mentioned, are very critical component, because
Hmm.
that tool is actually monitoring your endpoint, whatever changes are happening on the endpoint. Every log is being captured, and once that agent is installed onto your host, that is responsible for doing all the, logical processing of anomalies.
Okay.
And it does that and relays that information possibly to a central server. So generally how an EDR is working is, you have an agent onto your host that
Hmm.
is capturing every log, every data, every process spawn activity, what is spawning off. For example, if it is a Word file,
Hmm.
through that Word file there is a partial that is getting initiated, and then through the partial there is a Chrome, Chrome.exe is being initiated, and that Chrome.exe is trying to hit to a specific domain. So this,
Hmm.
I'm just giving you a specific chain. Now the agent is updated with the logics to detect such sort of detections. So Windows, from a Windows, sorry, Word.exe process, the child process that is spawning off is partial, is kind of abnormal.
Hmm.
That should not be happening. Why it happened is again then needs to be further investigated with the logics that are already inbuilt. So the agent will trigger an alert, capture that log, will send it to the central cloud, their cloud server, where the further processing and understanding through AI and ML, that chain of command, process is being studied, the command execution is being studied, and they try to at times simulate also that, okay, what if this command is being executed, what would happen, what's the impact. Is it only opening Chrome, or is it also, along with opening Chrome, it is also creating a scheduled task. That task is responsible for opening up Chrome and communicating to the same domain each and every time you log into the machine.
Okay.
So that processing that could happen onto the cloud, centralized cloud server, and then you get an alert onto your host, so on your console, which you are monitoring, right?
Okay.
So EDR, I would say, is one of the very critical and important tool to detect ransomware kind of attacks, because it is responsible to, no other tool which you deploy has the capability to do process analysis and all those. That
Okay.
for that we are using EDR. So I would say, when using or choosing an EDR, one should be very thoughtful of, and have an
But what
understanding.
is the recommendation in that case? Like any expertise involved in this? Like when you finalizing EDR, like if I want to talk about 5 points or 6 points or 2 points to
Okay.
shortlist the EDR, because there's a lot of buzzword about EDR in the market, right? A
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
marketing is happening around EDR.
Yes, yes.
People getting a best CISO awards for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, I mean, it is actually a great tool to have, and it's kind of a great arsenal to have in your organization. I
Hmm.
would say to choose, how to choose. First of all, you need to understand uh, the way, you need to sit with the OEMs and understand how they are operating,
Hmm.
right? To understand whether they are leveraging AI, how they are using of threat intel, how they are enriching their data for detection. Are they only? I don't think but today anyone is doing signature based. Earlier, historically it was only signature based detection that was happening, right? Which was
Hmm.
not helpful. That is what we how we switched on to EDR, and then now we are extended detections and response.
Yeah, I
We are
agree.
evolving to that. Yeah. So that basically you need to understand how, and ask those questions to the the OEM, how you operate, what are your enrichment techniques, right? Maybe they will not disclose the technicalities of it, but they definitely need to share the data, or the maybe they can, I believe they should be able to share that those kind of data as well, how they are enriching what, uh, you know and whether that data is being showcased to you onto, you just, so for example, if you have a EDR console and someone comes and says that, okay, this EDR enrichment is happening in the backend, you should
Hmm.
also have a place to look at that. Okay, when they are saying, can I go ahead and look at it myself? if they are saying, for example, a specific family, is being targeting, healthcare sector, and you belong to the healthcare sector, you are the consumer of that product. In your console, you should have that information so that you can run corresponding searches during the POCs. Also, you should do, run corresponding searches to see that these kind of things are being detected or not. You need to, while doing the POC, you need to, check with different set of attack types. So maybe you set up a VM, deploy, that EDR agent, and then put multiple different type of malwares in it to test it out, whether it is detecting, botnet attacks, whether it is detecting, ransomware signatures, whether is it able to detect, file encryptions or not. So those are few things you need to do as part of a POC, wherein you need to, from your end, you need to do a rigorous testing using, VMs, and then putting that, software under, thorough test to see what type of detections it can have. Because I have, with my experience, seen a lot of cases wherein, the great, the best of the best EDRs are not able to detect the parent file, which is also malicious, but they are able to detect the, child process, which is malicious. So why they were not
That is a
able?
concern.
Yeah, so that is a concern. So child getting detected, but parent not getting detected is a concern, right? Could be a possibility that it was a new, a way that parent process might have been set up, or a new hash signature that was not listed. It could be a possibility, but that is what I was just trying to say, that you need to have a thorough testing while choosing these tools, and also get the understanding from the OEM that what how they are, keeping up with the latest advancement in terms of attacks. It can be ransomware, it can be malware, botnets, can be anything.
That's great. And when you're talking about the requirement of impact of ransomware on the organization, can you just express in a two statements what is the impact of ransomware on an organization? I know economic impact is there, financial is there, but what are the others?
Okay, so I touch base on this also. So ransomware, it is not uh, okay. So ransomware attacks can have, devastating consequences on the, organizations. It can affect financial stability, operations, reputation, and then compliance with, regulatory requirements. It also has psychological impacts on your employees,
Hmm.
right?
Good point.
The users of your product, so that's how your brand reputation goes down. So, financial losses, reputation damage, operational disruptions, leak of PII data, right? Psychological impact on the employees. So these are few points. If you want, I can elaborate on them. Yeah, so not like that. uh, for example, and financial losses, everyone is aware, right?
Hmm.
That you have to pay for a certain set of money to the, attacker, right? And then just try to understand the graph here. Uh, for example, you are based out of India, and the attacker family is of our neighboring countries. Our arch enemy. There are people who are, from the other side, try to, so one of the arch enemies, I will not name the country. So uh, you as an Indian organizations are being impacted by the neighbor who is responsible for funding the terrorists. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when you are impacted and you pay the money,
Hmm.
that is actually going to fund the terrorists. Now, so I'm just giving a, simple example here, right? So that is not again impact on your organization. It also has an impact on the state. So it is very, important to understand, as an organization, you need to have a strategy whether you want to go and, pay for a ransomware, and that to understand whom you are paying. First of all, I would not encourage to pay. You should have enough, detection mechanisms, and you should not be, paying it because it only supports the such kind of, more attacks when you end up paying. So if you are properly prepared and, backed up and, proper detections, chances are you'll not get impacted. And even if you are impacted, you can recover back from them. And then, uh, that kind of impact, that money, you are not sending it to someone who is, kind of using that money to fund organizations that can create a nation state impact. And reputation damage of an organization is obviously, get impacted. You lose the customers trust, negative publicity, your shares will go down, operational disruptions, like I mentioned, it will, your critical, business stops. For example, if you are an e-commerce website getting impacted, your portal is down because the supporting infra behind that is impacted with ransomware. Your loss of money again, then, customers frustration, lose of trust, and where what I was talking about, psychological impact on the employee. Now, the people who are responsible for upkeeping of that infrastructure will have to spend lot of time to recover from that attack, right? So that increases the stress, the anxiety, and again, normal people, organization employees will have a thought of job insecurity, right? A disruption of work-life balance. So, it kind of impacts touch bases. This is one attack. It touch bases on every aspect, I would say. So you know, one should actually do tabletop exercises to, you know, be prepared for a ransomware attack.
Okay.
Yeah, so that basically, is very much needed because everyone should know their, duties and should be aware that what could have happened. No one should be, sitting like that. Okay, hands are, crossed. I don't know what to do. Mind is seized. Even your, senior leadership should be prepared with that thought that, okay, if this happens, this is the next step which we need to do. This is where we need to reach out to. We need to disclose this to the, authorities within this time frame. Between that, we need to do whatever, collection of data and all those stuff. Yeah. So that's how.
It's a very
Uh,
interesting point that you talk about negotiations and all that. And I agree on that point is, it's not necessarily the data that actually in ransomware attack, we have a two perspective here. One is we talk about gaining access and enumerating data. But in that case, even if you pay the ransom, there's no assurance that they will give the money to you. And second is if the data is still in your network, then backup is the only solution. There's no point of paying ransom. Correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah. So if you have a good backup, so 3-2-1 is the strategy.
Yeah, I was about to discuss that. What is a preventative backup strategy? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So okay. So first of all, like you mentioned, right? Uh, one should not be, looking at a scenario that I have to pay for a ransom. You
Hmm.
have to prepare how to detect. First of all, prepare yourself how to detect early stage detection,
Hmm.
during the attack detection, and post attack what should be the aftermath detection. So these are three different major criteria. You should break down your ransomware strategy. Pre detection will involve you to set up, choose the right set of tools and, detection mechanisms, create, that is part of the, team who is working on detections and everything. So how they create, custom rules for early detections during the attack is something wherein multiple teams will be involved.
Okay.
It will not be only security, operations that will be involved. You will have your ITSD involved, your network team involved, your data center, your, the employees, end users who are working from office, from your, work from home. So all that kind of, so you need to think and create a process around that, that if this happens, you need to keep in mind you, what is your work base, how many users we have, And if such scenarios happen, am I capable, or will that surge will my team be able to handle that kind of surge in terms of demand? Because ITSD will be bombarded with emails, calls, everything. They will have a hard time. Within that, they also need to capture the critical information, right? So that is again, important. Then the teams in terms of infrastructure, the
Mm.
people who will be will be asked to sit on calls for a long amount of hours to help retrieving back the data. Even if you're doing the backup, it will take time, right? So the teams will be different. You have to involve your legal, insurer, your senior leadership. So everyone has to be involved. So that is during the phase, and after the phase is when you have actually gone through contained backup and recover. Now you need to focus on what's the strategy going forward, because by
Mm.
that time your brand is kind of you have a hit on your shares, your brand reputation. So how do you tackle through that and navigate through that as a business strategy? So again, this is what I was trying to say, that one attack touch bases multiple cuts through multiple aspects of business and corporate. Yeah.
And can you just share your perspective on 3-to-1 strategy?
Okay.
How it
So
works? Yeah.
okay. So basically 3 to 1 is okay. So 3 to 1 is a simple scenario wherein you need to understand how the backup will work, right?
Mm.
So you need to have uh, your backup in three different places,
Mm.
okay? Two different mediums, okay? And then one should be your I would say basically uh, one should be your hard backup, which should be there with you. So when I say three different places, maybe you have three different locations, right?
Mm.
That's when you create BCP plans, right? So one backup resides in the northern region, and the second backup is in the south, maybe central, and then the third backup in the southern region. So that's
Okay.
how you different segregate. Maybe when I'm saying region, it's talking about offices, right?
Okay.
So it could be that one location is impacted, the other location might not be. So if you are keeping different backups at different places, you might even if your one of the sites is down, you can recover back taking the backup help from the other sites.
Mm.
Then the medium should be different. So when I talk about medium, uh, it so one, if you are keeping it on the cloud,
Mm.
okay. One, if you are keeping it on the cloud, the other one should be a hard backup. So
Okay.
that is why the difference between the two mediums. And one should be stored offsite. When offsite, when I said it should be not connected. You create a backup and disconnect it from the network. So basically, you do not connect it very, it is not directly connected. It's when only needed, you plug it back to the network. So that why? Because why? It kind of a segmentation that is that you are creating, so that if your network is impacted, you have something maybe 1 week back or 1 month back at least, depending upon the frequency you decide how it has to happen. That is organized, depends on the organization, right? How critical their data is. So that is up to the organization to choose the backup frequency. So if you are not the offsite backup is not connected to your network, even if your entire network is impacted, you still have something which has not been touched by the attacker. So you can do a fresh start from there. It will be a hard job, but the data will not be lost. So that is why backup is needed. 3 to 1, that is the rule. And also doing backup is important. To test the backups is also important.
Okay.
So yeah, so you do the backups and you do not test whether your backup is fine, and then you're not able to recover back from it. You're just in the thought that okay, I have backed it up and I'm good if the attack happens, and the backup is not happening. Maybe it gets corrupted, right? At some point of time, you do not check on it and whether it is recoverable or not. So you need to keep regular tests on backup, checks on backup recovery, whether it is recoverable or not. So that
That's
is
that's that's great. And when it comes to the before we wind up this thing, I want to ask one important thing is that how the negotiation take place. Like if we're going for the negotiations and all that, what should be the negotiation process? Because
okay.
it's a very interesting thing which I would really need to understand from you.
Okay. So negotiations. First of all, like you and me already discussed, you also put in your thought that if you do the proper backups and detection in place, you should not go for paying the ransomware,
Hmm.
because one example of a ransomware family is your Black Cat ransomware,
Hmm.
which is pretty much famous for double encryption.
Yeah,
Okay,
true.
so what is double encryption? I'll just explain just before coming to that negotiations part. So threat actors generally other families of ransomware which I have personally seen, they will give you a specific amount, and one set of key will help you decrypt all your files. If you pay
Okay.
that amount, it will help you decrypt all your files. Black Cat is something interesting. So they are using two different set of keys to encrypt files. So for example, you have 100 files on your
Hmm.
machine, 50 are encrypted with one set of key and 50 are encrypted with another set of key.
Hmm.
So when you make the payment, first payment which you make, they will not disclose that they have encrypted with two set of keys. So when you are making a payment, they'll only share one set of key. Now you have
Okay.
decrypted 50 of your files, 50 are still remaining. Now you see, think that why this is not happening. Again, you go back to them. Then they'll tell that, okay, that was only one set of key. To get another set of key, now you have to pay this much amount extra. So
Okay.
so that is how they're pretty notorious. They are. So that I just wanted to share that insight. So why you should not be willing to pay is another aspect that you might end up getting a double encryption there. So again, double ransom you have to pay. Now coming back to the negotiations part. So negotiation will not happen from the technical team side. You need to have resources who are aware how to interact with the threat actor, because interacting with the threat actor is something very important.
Hmm.
You do not you have to be kind of I would say a good pretender. Okay, based why I would like to cover that. So first of all, teams, right? So you have to have your senior leadership involved from the organization perspective, your organization's legal advisors, the insurers, and the insurers will eventually include their legal advisors. Then you should have your internal team that is responsible or have been educated on interacting with the threat actors.
Okay.
Then the fifth important point is you should set up an infrastructure from where you will communicate to with the threat actor. Why infrastructure is very important? It is very important to keep your identity isolated, safe, and non-disclosed to the threat actor. The identity of the person who is talking to the threat actor, the machine that is being used to have that conversation with the threat actor, right? So that infra needs to be set up. So it has to be and you should use a VM, you know remove unnecessary open ports and everything, when you should be using VPN onto that host to make the attacker believe that you're talking to from a specific location. And when you start communicating from a specific location, ideally
you should keep it there. It should not be, kept bouncing. So VPN as in should have a license purchase of VPN wherein you can choose a specific location, not a general VPN that, randomly is changing places on its own. So and so that should be the few setup that has to happen in the background. Now, in order to talk to the threat actor, the legal team, the senior leadership, and the insurer side will sit, and then they will decide that, okay, for example, the threat actor has asked for 1 CR. I'm just giving context in Indian rupees. So 1 CR, the threat actor has asked. Now, does the organization have the insurance of that sort? Whether the insurance covers that amount of money to be paid or not. If it is not covered, what is the amount of money that the insurer can pay needs to be discussed and decided. Then, uh, in terms of at times organization, if it is a, for example, if it is a startup, right? Possibility is they might not have purchased or gone through taken up an insurance of that sort, right? Then it has to be with the leadership to decide and the legal team to decide whether they can afford to pay that much amount of money or not.
So is it really matter that people have to pay? People really pay the money?
No, like I mentioned, they should not be paying. First of all,
Hmm.
like I mentioned, right? So the money that you are paying is being used to sponsor something else,
Hmm.
right? It might be being used for, someone might be using it to purchase a weapon that might be, end up killing a child or, someone in another geographical location.
Hmm.
So I would not say that, you should pay,
Hmm.
should not be doing that. Still, if you are, hellbound and, you have to pay for it, then it is something you need to take a call for, right? In that case, you need to the organization need to decide that, okay, we are willing to go for this much amount of money, right?
Hmm.
So then you have to, now the threat actor will not come down from the original ask just like that, right? So that is where the drama comes into picture. You have to create a theme. How do you want to bring it down?
Hmm.
So we have had scenarios, we have seen scenarios wherein I was not part of that team,
Okay.
but I was closely involved with that team. So they used to create theme. For example, one scenario they created a theme of of an IT employee who is just end of his corporate career, and he mentions that, okay, the after forensics and everything, we found that, okay, for example, it was an email compromise, something like that. So then the theme goes like, I am part of that team. They will try to create a scenario. For example, it was a network, admin, network team. Someone from the network side got, breached,
Hmm.
and through that the entry point was traced back. So within that team, we'll place a hypothetical character who is just about to end his corporate career, and with this attack happening, his organization will go down, and then he'll not get paid. He has two grandchildren to look after for. So we create this kind of a story, and then we try to pitch it by any hook or crook to the threat actor, to at least either we bring him down emotionally, right? So to a grounds wherein he kind of lowers some amount of money, or we there could be a scenario, it is a frustrated CEO, right? He
Okay.
just want to get rid of this, because he in terms of monetary loss, what he is suffering is much more than the ask that the attacker has placed, right? So he says, okay, I have this much money ready. I can give it to you right now. For the amount that you are asking, I have to go through, a lot of things, legal and everything. And, that amount of money will take, maybe 1 month or 2 months for me to, get transferred. But if you ask for, this much amount of money, I can do it in 3 days or 2 days,
Okay.
right? So that is, yeah, so that is how the bargaining process goes. But that is not, should not be, entertained, because I would say it's not a good, it would not be a good practice to fund a threat actor, because it will again, strengthen their objectives, and, give them more fuel to conduct these kind of attacks. So should not be,
Understood.
ideally, organization should not go for a ransomware payment.
That,
Recovery, if you have done, backups and recovery is done properly, maybe you might take a hit on your operations for a certain amount of time. You should go the way of recovery, right?
that's great. So, do you have any final notes, Shivendra, to share the
Uh,
viewpoint to the customers here, viewers?
yep. So, for example, okay. So I would like to mention that, in totality, one should, ransomware attack, for a ransom attack, these have become very persistent. We have been seeing it for organizations. I think there could be possibilities. We haven't in India. We have seen it on certain big scale organizations. Uh, the next stage would be medium scale organizations, and, small organizations as well.
That's great.
So that is something we should keep in mind. We should have a task force, both, from the, authorities side, and also people should be educated for this. That, okay, this is one of the attacks. If you follow the right steps, you might not have to pay, an amount of money that kind of, 6 months down the line will end you, will run you to a bankruptcy state, right? So you don't have to do this. So for example, you need to have you need to understand the importance of proactive defenses, the employee training, which is very critical, which I would like to again highlight. Educating the employees is very important, because the percentage of entry points through phishing emails is extremely high. So, and the user habits, if you educate an employee what software to download, on your organization, then you should not be, using it at, as much as possible. Do not connect through public Wi-Fi's, your office devices, and do not open emails that are malicious, even your personal, on your personal phones. The importance of updates, regular updates, patching, importance of endpoint security, the benefits of regular backups, offline backups, and having a strategic incident response plan for the different categories which we talked about, the containment strategies that will be involved in that, incident response plan, the understanding of how the human factor will respond to when an attack happens in the crisis situation, who will be your spokes from the specific teams who, would be able to handle that kind of stress. Not everyone will be able to do that, because ransomware attack, I mean, it will involve immense amount of mental and physical strength. It will require for the people working on that attack. Ethical business making, decision making. You want to pay for a ransom or not, right? The very important point I would say is the collaboration that should happen
Okay.
between, that should happen across the globe. Why it is important is, for example, if something has happened in, an organization in India, right, could be a possibility it can happen in the same specific manner in Australia as well,
Okay.
right? And through this to the same sector of organization, or to a different sector of organization. So if we have a collaborative intelligence, right? So that helps each and every organizations keep their, defenses upgraded.
Okay.
So for example, if a new file has emerged and you get an alert and there is a centralized threat intelligence feed that is every organization, for example, is using or are being subscribed to. You publish it, people add those hash signature or IOCs to get automatically blocked as soon as it is identified on the host. So it will not have an impact on the other organizations. Maybe one organization got impacted, but the other will be able to save, will be safe from that attack. So collaborative intelligence is very important, and that can happen, at a higher level also, and then through any product, that we have threat intelligence and news security forums. You are doing it, a great amount of work in terms of educating people of what different attack scenarios are, with your shorts on LinkedIn, and dedicated training plans and everything. Yeah. So
This is not a promotional one, so he just shown out of
no,
the
no,
love.
I'm just see. No, I am see. I learn from those stuff, so that's what I'm.
Thank
That
you,
is why
thanks.
I'm mentioning. So it's not something, and every if you get knowledge from somewhere, you should appreciate it, and
Thank
the
you.
person who is sharing that knowledge should be appreciated.
Thanks, man. Thanks you. And I got a great learning from this particular podcast on the ransomware negotiations and all that. And I'm sure those who watching this video, they also get a learning. So Shivendra, is it okay? Can I share your LinkedIn profile in description box?
Yeah.
So if someone want to reach out to you, they can reach out directly.
Yes, that would be okay. Yeah, not an issue.
And so Shivi, before we wind up, people want to do research on this attacks and all that. So do you have any idea about, do you have any references where the people can visit and check on the modern ransomware attacks and news about ransomware, and they can learn from those patterns and everything?
Yeah, so see, there are multiple OEMs who
Hmm.
have created dedicated research blogs for studying about these kind of attacks. So if you talk about CrowdStrike writes detailed blogs about
Hmm.
different attack scenarios, not restricted to ransomware, but including ransomware and multiple other things. Then you have Sentinel One, disclosing information about specific ransomware families. You have Trend Micro's ransomware spotlight. You have great organizations in India that are working on a for dedicated IR responses. One of them is Erite. Okay,
Okay.
Erite IR. Yeah. So they are also doing a great amount of work, and there are news portals, like I said, bleeping computer is one of that, wherein multiple uh, organizations are there. Of course, then you are also there
Nahin, nahin,
creating
nahin.
awareness. So yeah, so
That's great. And Shivi, thanks for the great insight you have shared on this platform. And we're looking forward for more insight from you on the new topics. And do let us know in the comment box, team. Do you want me to disturb again Shivi for the new content? And I'm sure he will not say no to that.
no, I mean it's an it was a privilege talking to you and having this discussion. During these discussions, there are few points that struck my mind, and I thought, okay, this is something I might not have covered properly, or I might would have wanted to explain on that. So yeah, so sorry if I did not
No, 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 no. It was
cover.
amazing. It was amazing. And I thoroughly enjoyed. And I think the viewers who watching this podcast, definitely they have enjoyed also, Shivi.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, and thanks again, for for all the work that you're doing and having me
Thank
here.
you.
So,
Thanks, Shivi. So
yeah.
this is all from our side, team. Do let us know how do you find this podcast. And if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss the future videos on a similar topic. Good day. Bye.